deviation, District E, a negative 4.74. That's your two districts that you take the high range and the low range, add them together to get your overall deviation. And the way you go about getting your optimum number is you take your total population, divide it by your total number of members to get your optimum number, multiply it by 5% to get your high range. Well, you multiply it by 5% to get the number, add it to the optimum to get your high range, subtract it from your optimum number to get your low range. So we try to get those in balance in what they refer to as deviation. And in an attempt in these plans to do that without splitting a whole lot of precincts and causing more expense for the parish, that's where we're at. And you can see the map up here where District C is at 6.8 and E is at 7.43. So if you don't have any questions as far as that, I'm going to move on to Plan 1.
Doug, just for clarification on that, if it's a minus, that means
it's on the low. It's up the low range. You want to try to.
We lost people in that area.
You didn't really lose population because of the growth in the parish. Depending on where it occurred, you could have growth in some districts.
Okay. Maybe
more than others. Now, when we do this for Ouachita Parish School Board, we take the city of Monroe out of the equation. We were around 104,000 in 2010, and in that area, and we're around 112. So the parish has grown some, even though the city of Monroe and West Monroe have lost a little bit of population. The parish is growing. And
Doug, so that would suggest that people stayed within Ouachita Parish.
Yes,
and moved out of the.
Yes, sir.
Incorporates the city.
Yes, sir.
City limits of both sides.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's roughly 47,000. Well, it's not roughly. It is 47,702 people in the city of Monroe. So you take that out because they have their own school board.
How many people in the city?
47,702. Which is down slightly from 2010. Every other parish in northeast Louisiana that we represent lost population.
Really?
So it kind of hung in there in Ouachita Parish.
Ouachita gained 6,648, is that what you said?
6,648, yes, sir. I can't look at the screen. First plan that I looked at, I'm just trying to move it around just a little bit. We moved District E. Well, we didn't really do anything to E. We're just trying to balance the rest of them. You can see the numbers change slightly. So, and the numbers are on the map. We're still at 6% and a -6. And I was trying to do that by moving whole precincts around. And the whole precincts weren't going to work. So what I had to do was talk to the demographer for the Secretary of State, and I was informing him that we're going to probably have to split precincts. So what I did basically with Plan 2 is develop Plan 2. This is hard to do both at the same time, so bear with me, please. If you look at Plan 2, the second map in the handout that you have, in balancing District B and D, I took a whole precinct just west of Vancell Road in that area, used the whole precinct, and was able to bring District D into deviation by using a whole precinct. So we don't have that expense that we have to bear by splitting the precinct. Balanced the districts on the east side between G and F. And you can see how the lines are moving around. We did have to split a couple of precincts. Also on this map, wherever you see the dark green line, that's where the old district lines are. You can see where I crossed over over the existing district line to make the numbers work. Also, in District E, we moved across that district line, and I'm going to blow this up where you can see this. We crossed into District A to address the minority population, and because it was on the low side, below a -5%, and I moved just far enough north into District A to balance the numbers and to get it under 5%, a -5%, the low range. I didn't go any further, didn't want to mess up District A too much. So minor changes there in my opinion. That's the 3 changes for Plan 2. Very minor changes to bring them into line. Any questions on this plan?
So Plan 2 doesn't move over into District C? Doesn't move?
Yes, sir,
E
that was the
into-
first one I was talking about.
Okay.
That's where we moved the line over and grabbed that precinct.
Right,
The whole,
okay.
the whole
Whole
precinct.
precinct.
Britton Road
Right,
and all that area. It reduced the number for D on Plan 1, got it under 5% on the high range, and it brought your district in a little on the low side, but a -1.45. Whole precinct, we didn't have to split a
Right.
precinct there.
So you took from C,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you notice that heavy green line,
I see it.
blow this up where everyone back in the back can see this. This was the existing line, Shinny Road, Shinny exit, Louisiana Highway 546, running down to Britton Road back up to 80, and 80 back to Louisiana 546. That is an entire precinct right there.
Okay.
I'll turn that on where you can see that whole precinct. Bear with me. It makes it easier to do these building blocks. In part, as precinct 52A, there's a total population of 1,339. Part of the reason why the state does not want us to split a whole lot of precincts is they're in the process of redistricting the state house and state senate and our congressional districts. Any questions on Plan 2?
I'm sorry, did you check that out in the Balkandale area on 32 Hempfield Road and intersections if it's not coming up at the voting precinct on some of the people out there that told me they was in a different district? Remember, I talked to you about that.
Yes, sir. Everything that I have, that is in District D.
It's in District D, okay. Thank you.
That's precinct 31. Any more questions on Plan 2? I'll move on to Plan 3. Made a few different changes on this plan. G and F are unchanged from Plan 2. District E is opposed to going north further like we did on Plan 2, going into District D. We went into C to balance those numbers. Just another way to look at it to see what the numbers would come out to do. And you can see with this area right here, it takes in that area that you were just referring to, Mr. Hicks, and takes 2 whole precincts well, it takes in precinct whole 48, and we split 31 to try to keep the minority numbers at a range of what it was previously or currently with the 2010 data. District B took in the whole precinct of 52A, I think it is, yes, sir, and 52 and 54 is split, going down Louisiana 546 and a creek that goes across Caples Road and back up to Louisiana 151 and 144. And that would bring that District B into deviation at 4.31, District C at 3.42. District D is probably where the biggest change is, and in an attempt to look at the numbers there to just to see if we could do some things with representation on the west side. District D would have a black representation of 32.55% and a percent of 56.83 white. And that would, if you remember, lose those two precincts to District E on the south side, which lowers the numbers there from 69% to 55%. Split more precincts with this plan.
What's
Again,
the positive and negatives of splitting the precincts?
Cost, and technically we're in a freeze right now, but if you remember, I spoke with the demographer from the Secretary of State's office, and they said if you absolutely have to split precincts, keep them to a minimum. And I think that's what Plan 2 does.
That's because of the statewide redistricting.
Yes. And with that plan, if you look at the deviation, Plan 3 would be 8%, 8 point something percent, 8.4%, I believe it is. And District 2, Plan 2, excuse me, is right at 10%.
Doug, what'd you say the population of Ouachita Parish was again?
160,368.
Why do we have to change all this up? Why can't we just leave it like it is?
Well, every 10 years, the census is taken, and part of that, they put out what is called the PL 94-171 data. And by law, you have to look at redistricting every 10 years to see if your districts are in compliance with state laws and the United States Justice Department requirements. One man, one vote, one person, one vote. And you need to make sure that equal representation, that's the deviation. Each district is representing the same amount of people, and it's not, given that it's 10%, just a rule of thumb, everyone tries to get them at 10% or less. Now, you could just submit your plan as is, as it currently exists, but it would be above 10%. And that's when you usually would get into trouble. But law says you have to look at redistricting every 10 years with that data. Every entity is supposed to look at that.
But basically, Plan 2 fits the
We're only
mold.
splitting a couple of precincts there. It's a bare minimum.
So you're moving one whole precinct,
Correct.
splitting 2
I
precincts.
believe it's 3. Yes, sir.
You have any more questions from the board?
Sandra, correct.
Could we have any questions from the board? From the audience, about any of the area? District? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium.
Overall deviation percentage? It's right at 13% deviation. I think it was right at 10%.
9.4.
8.4.
Plan 3 would have it go to the state, but it would have problems because they said it let it be possible.
It meets some of the requirements of the state, but it also breaks the law about splitting precincts also. So it's give and take with the state. Not splitting near as many precincts. Like it's splitting too many precincts.
Exactly.
And 2 is not split. It's a little bit higher on the deviation, but it's not too bad. All the 2 plans, Plan 2 and 3, really comes close to doing the job.
Any more questions from the audience? This has nothing to do with this is voting precincts only, nothing to do with your school zone. People need to know that, because I've had.
No, right.
It's nothing to.
It's your
strictly
school board
voting
member
precincts and where you vote, so I want to make that clear, so. Any more questions for anybody? Yeah. I have a motion to adjourn.
So move. Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Thank y'all for